static blocks. Now let's see. Let's take a situation where we have this number of cars, which is basically static. Now, if you do not create the object, and without creating the object, can we access this? Yes, obviously yes. So I can say car dot number of cars. So let's compile this. We are getting the output as 0. Now, what happens next? Suppose if I create few cars, new car, like this. In this case, the number of cars value will change when new car instance is created. Again, here new car instance is created, so the value will change. So after this, again, if I print number of cars, I would get the output as 2 in this case because two objects are created. So our purpose is solved. It's good. It's happening like that. It is printing 0 0 the and 1 0 0 is because you remember there we printed the number of cars. So then we printed first, it is printed 0 here. Then when this is called in that constructor, it is printing 0, but it become 1, and again it is printing 1. That's because the value become 1, and then again the value here, the 2 times the number of cars has been incremented, so output will be 2. So we get the output as 0 in this statement, 0 in this statement, but the number of cars value actually becomes 1 because it's increments. And again we see 1 because the number of cars values was 1, was printed. After that it has been incremented, it becomes 2, so we get the output as 2. So output should be 0 0 1 2, and that is the output we see here. So perfect. But now take a situation, say let's forget about what creating an instance of the car. I'm not okay in having an what the number of cars initialized with 0. Let's assume like that. I want to have a number of cars, the static variable, to be initialized with, let's say, 10 or 100. Maybe I'll start counting from 1000. Yes, it is actually true. Say, for example, I was working for a company called GCL India Private Limited, where I was working on an enterprise resource planning software, where every new year after the financial year gets over, for the new customer who start they selling the product, they'll sell something called machines. When the machines were sold, they will generate something called invoice. Is the invoice is something where you get an what, basically more like a bill, and every invoice will have a unique number. So what they do, basically they'll start from, instead of starting from 1 2 3, they start from, let's say, 1001 1002, or maybe from 1000, or maybe from 5000. Why do they do that? For the simple reason, they show this, the latest invoice as, let's say, 5023, and to the new customer, and says we already sold some 5000 machine from the marketing perspective view. So it makes actually sense, isn't it? So that is a real world situation. But the concept here is, we studied that if I have a static variable like this, a class variable, this variable gets initialized. This variable gets initialized when a class loader loads the class, and it will be initialized with what, default number, default value, that is 0, because it's a numeric type. Whereas these guys also get initialized, but they'll get initialized by whom? They'll get initialized by constructor. So now what I want to do is, initially when the class loads car, the number of cars value should be, number of cars value should be something, let's say 100 I want to start with. So I'll go for something called static block. So this block will be called by the class loader when this class has been loaded to the memory. So whether you create instance or not, this block will be called by the class loader. So here if I say number of cars equal to, let's say, 100. So this happens only once. So this is 100 now. Now we go here, when I call this, what happens? No constructor is called, no instance of car is created, but still the number of cars value will be 100. Perfect. And same way, suppose after this I'll say new car and new car. So understand this one. When we say new car, we are creating a new instance, but this is not gonna call. This is gonna call only once when the class is loaded to the memory. Is it clear? So we get the output as now 100 and 101. So why is that? So let's interpret this. We are getting the output as 100, 100, 101. Why we are getting the output like this? So this is the output we are getting 100, 100, 101. Here, when the class was loaded to memory, the number of cars was set an initial default value as 100. So that is the output we see in the println. Now in the new car, before I increment, I'm printing the what? The value of number of cars. So what happens? Obviously it will print 100, it will print 100 and it will increment. Again the same thing is happening. New car. What happens? It will print the value of number of cars, that will be 100 and 1. But current value of number of cars will be 102 because new objects are created after a number of cars has been initialized with 100. So after this statement, if I print the output as, again if I try to print the value of number of cars, I'll get the output as, so I just want to add one divider here. So we see the output as 100, 100, 101, but the latest update of number of car value is 102. Perfect. So I hope you understood about the static block. So what if I have more than one static block? Let's say if I have something like this. Can I have something like this? Let's say I am static block 2. Let's save this. And let's say I will have I'm static block 2, 3, let's say 6. It's not that I want to give in a serial order, just want to show you that they all will execute in one sequence. And let's give one println statement here also. Let's say I'm static block 1. So we get the output as, first this will execute, then this, then this, then this. Like this we can have multiple static blocks. Static block 1, 2, 3, 6. So what we understood out of this? If you see here, this is coming to this later, before even this happens. Before this even happens, the class loader will load the class car. So when you load the class car, what you will do? You will call all the static blocks. And before you call the static block, what you will do? It will initialize the static variables with the default values. Followed by static blocks are called. In one of such static blocks, what I'm doing? I'm initializing with 100. Concept is clear? There is one more concept called static import and static class. That is, static class we are going to study in the nested class chapter. In the next lesson, I am going to teach you static import